Zane wasn't having the best day. His ship, the Star Chaser, had crash-landed on a planet that wasn't on any star maps. While he was trying to fix a busted engine panel, he felt a sudden weight drop onto his back, knocking him flat onto the ground. "Ugh, what the?" he groaned, rolling over to see what hit him. A pair of bright purple eyes blinked down at him. "I was wondering why you were lying like that," a soft voice said. The alien girl sitting on top of him cocked her head in confusion, her silver hair brushing against Zane's nose. "Humans are so strange. Why do you sit on the ground when you work?" Zane tried to squirm away, but she didn't move an inch. "I wasn't sitting on the ground. You knocked me over." The girl blinked again, looking genuinely puzzled. "Did I? My apologies. I'm not used to. What did you call it?" "Personal space," he sighed, trying not to laugh at the absurdity of it all. "Yeah, personal space. It's, when you give people a little room. You don't sit on them." "Oh," she said, her eyes lighting up with realization. "So that's what you meant by space. I thought you meant outer space. Humans have too many meanings for words." "Tell me about it," Zane muttered. "Mind getting off me now?" The alien girl, whose name he'd learned was Kira, tilted her head. "Why?" "This feels comfortable." Her tail, which Zane hadn't noticed before, wrapped itself casually around his leg. Zane raised his hands in defeat. "Okay, Kira, how about this? You get off me and I'll explain human customs. Like personal space. Deal." Kira didn't move. "But your body heat is nice. You humans are so warm." Zane glanced around, hoping one of his crewmates might rescue him. No such luck. His best friend, Lex, was busy up ahead, talking to the alien leader, a tall and intimidating figure named Velar. Meanwhile, their engineer, Rena, was off inspecting the ship's damage. Kira's voice interrupted his thoughts. "Does all this human space stuff mean I'm not allowed to touch you?" Well, it's not that you can't touch me," Zane said carefully. "But usually you ask first." Kira seemed fascinated by this new concept. "Ask? That's so inefficient. On my planet we just do what feels natural." She leaned closer, her breath warm against his cheek. "And this feels natural." Zane's heart skipped a beat. "Natural for you, maybe," he muttered under his breath. "But humans, we like a little distance sometimes." Kira seemed to ignore him, shifting her position so she was now comfortably nestled against his chest. "I don't get it. Why would anyone want distance? This is much more." Intimate. Zane could feel his face getting redder by the second. "Yeah, that's the point. It's too intimate. Most people don't do this unless what?" Kira asked, her eyes wide with curiosity. Zane opened his mouth to answer, but Vela's booming voice cut through the air. "Kira, what are you doing?" Kira glanced up at her leader, completely unfazed. "Studying the human. He's very interesting." "Warm," too. Vela sighed deeply. "You're violating their personal space again, aren't you?" "Maybe," Kira said with a shrug. "But I don't see why it's a big deal." Vela looked exasperated. "We've talked about this. Humans have boundaries." "Boundaries," Kira echoed thoughtfully. "But Zane hasn't complained." Zane raised a hand weakly. "Actually, I kind of did." Velar shook his head and strode over, effortlessly lifting Kira off Zane with one arm. "You need to respect their customs," he told her sternly. "Even if you find them strange." Kira pouted, floating a few inches off the ground as Vela set her aside. "But I was just trying to be friendly." Zane sat up, dusting himself off. "I appreciate the friendliness, Kira. But yeah, we've got different ways of showing it." Rena finally walked over, raising an eyebrow at the scene. "What's going on here?" "Zane, why do you look like you just lost a wrestling match?" Kira, Zane said simply, gesturing to the alien girl, who was now floating in the air like it was the most normal thing in the world. Rena laughed. "Let me guess. No concept of personal space." "Exactly," Zane muttered. Kira's ears perked up. "I'm learning, though. Zane is teaching me about human customs." Rena grinned. "Well, that's one way to make friends, I guess." Kira floated closer to Rena, her eyes shining with curiosity. "Do you like personal space too?" Rena smirked. "Depends, but I'd rather not be sat on, thanks." Zane shook his head in disbelief. This day just keeps getting weirder. As the group continued to chat, Velar gave Zane a knowing look. "Don't worry, she'll learn eventually." Zane sighed. "I sure hope so." But as Kira floated beside him, her eyes full of excitement and endless curiosity, Zane had a feeling things were only going to get more complicated from here. Zane was still trying to process everything when Kira floated back down beside him, her tail wrapping loosely around his waist. She seemed determined to stay close, despite all the talk about personal space. He glanced nervously at Vela, hoping for some kind of intervention, but the alien leader was already turning his attention to other matters. Kira, meanwhile, was clearly enjoying her proximity. Humans are so complicated, she mused aloud, resting her head on Zane's shoulder as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Why would you want space when being this close feels so? Warm Zane stiffened, trying to keep his cool. We like personal space because, well, it's a human thing. We don't just, cuddle with people we've just met. Kira looked up at him, her purple eyes wide. Cuddle? Is that what this is called? Her tail gave a playful flick, tightening ever so slightly around him. I like cuddling. Is this a human bonding ritual? Zane could feel the heat rising in his cheeks again. Not exactly. It's more like something you do with, people you're close to. Kira's ears perked up. So you're saying we're close now? Zane froze, unsure how to respond. No, I mean, not that close. It's complicated. Kira didn't seem to mind. She settled even more comfortably against him, her tail brushing his side in a way that made Zane's thoughts scatter. Complicated? I don't understand why. If it feels good, why complicate it? Rena, who had been watching the whole scene with amusement, burst out laughing. Oh man, Zane, you're in deep now. Zane shot her a helpless look. This isn't funny, Rena. Oh, it's hilarious, Rena replied, grinning. You've got an alien girl all over you, and you don't know how to handle it. Zane threw his hands up in the air. I don't want to handle it. I want personal space. Kira blinked, tilting her head as if something just clicked. So you do want to bond with me. You just want space while we do it. Is that how humans show affection? Zane groaned, rubbing his face in frustration. No, Kira, that's not what because if that's the case, Kira continued, ignoring his protests, I can work with that. I'll just stay a little closer until you're more comfortable with bonding. Zane's face went bright red as Rena almost fell over from laughing too hard. Lex finally wandered over, taking in the scene with a raised eyebrow. What I miss? Rena wiped tears of laughter from her eyes. Oh, just Zane getting schooled in alien affection customs. Kira here thinks humans bond by invading personal space. Lex chuckled, crossing his arms. Well, in Zane's case, maybe that's not so far from the truth. Zane shot him a glare. Not helping, Lex. Kira, oblivious to the teasing, turned to Lex with genuine interest. Do all humans react like Zane when someone touches them? Or is this a special reaction? Lex grinned. Oh, he's special. All right, Zane groaned again, wishing the ground would just swallow him up. Can we change the subject? Please, but Kira wasn't done. I'm still curious about this bonding. If I sit closer, will it make the connection stronger? Zane's eyes widened as she moved even closer, practically on top of him again. No, that's too late. Kira had already nestled herself snugly against him again, her head resting comfortably on his chest. I like this human bonding ritual. It's much more pleasant than our traditional methods. Zane opened his mouth to ask what she meant by traditional methods, but then decided against it. He wasn't sure he wanted to know. Rena, still smirking, leaned over to Lex. We should definitely keep this going. Zane needs to learn how to make friends, alien style. Lex chuckled. I'll grab popcorn. Zane groaned louder this time. You guys are the worst. Kira looked up at him with those innocent eyes. Don't worry, Zane. I'll help you understand alien bonding. It's much simpler than human customs. Great, Zane muttered, trying to wiggle free without being too obvious. That's exactly what I needed, and as Kira settled in even more, her tail flicking playfully against him, Zane realized this wasn't going to be a short lesson. Zane tried to breathe normally, but having Kira practically glued to him was making it difficult. He glanced at his friends, hoping for some kind of rescue, but all he saw were smirks. Kira, still comfortably nestled against his chest, seemed oblivious to his discomfort. You know, she mused, her tail still wrapped snugly around his waist. Your heartbeat is fascinating. It's so. Fast. Zane coughed, trying to act casual. Yeah, well, it's a human thing. We get excited when things get close. Kira perked up. Excited? That's good, right? So this bonding ritual is working. Zane's face turned a shade redder. Excited isn't always. Good, he muttered, hoping she wouldn't catch on. Kira mused, adjusting herself slightly so she was practically straddling him now. Your body language says you're enjoying this. Zane's eyes widened. That's not exactly, of course, she continued, completely ignoring his protests. If we're going to bond properly, I'll need to learn more about human reactions. You're teaching me so much already. Zane tried to push himself up, but her tail kept him in place. I'm not sure this is the best way to learn. Rena, who was clearly enjoying the show, leaned over to Lex. Do you think we should give them some privacy? Lex grinned. Nah, Zane seems to have it under control. Zane shot them both a desperate look. Guys, seriously. A little help here. Kira's curious eyes flicked back and forth between Zane and his friends. Privacy. Is that another human concept? Should we go somewhere more private for this? Lex nearly choked on his laughter, while Rena's grin widened. Oh yeah, Zane, she teased. You two should definitely find a quiet spot to work on that bonding. Zane glared at them. Not funny, Rena. Kira, meanwhile, was still focused on him. I like learning about humans. You're very interactive. She shifted again, her face now inches from his. I'm curious, what else can humans do when they're this close? Zane gulped. Lots of things, but we don't have to explore them all right now. Kira seemed intrigued by that. Why not? If it helps with bonding, we should try everything. Zane's mind was spinning, and he could hear Rena snickering in the background. You've got to explain consent to her. Zane groaned, feeling like he was walking into a trap. Consent is when you ask before you touch someone. You make sure the other person is okay with it. Kira frowned, tilting her head. Why would I need to ask? If it feels good, why wouldn't the other person like it? Zane's face flushed bright red. Because that's how humans work. We don't just touch each other without asking. Kira looked thoughtful for a moment, then gave a small nod. Okay. So I'll ask first from now on. Zane sighed in relief. Thank you. That would be a start, but before he could relax, Kira's eyes sparkled again. Zane, can I touch you? Zane froze. He had definitely not seen that coming. I'm asking for consent, she said innocently, her hand already hovering near his shoulder. Lex, who had been pretending to focus on the ship, turned around with a grin. Zane, you're really bad at this whole teaching alien customs thing. Zane waved his hands in front of him, backing up a step. Hold on. You don't need to ask right now. We're just walking, so no need for extra touching. Kira looked a little disappointed, but nodded. All right. But when the time comes, I'll make sure to ask. Zane wasn't sure whether to be relieved or terrified. As they finally reached the ship, Rena leaned casually against the hull, her eyes twinkling with amusement. So, Zane, what's the next step in human bonding? After sitting close and consent, Zane was about to answer when Kira's ears perked up again. Yes. What comes after touching? Rena stifled a laugh, waiting for Zane to dig himself out of this one. Zane, for his part, was seriously considering running back to the crash site and pretending to be busy. After touching, Zane began awkwardly. Talking, Kira asked, her voice full of curiosity. But we've been talking this whole time. Yeah, but it's different, Zane explained, fumbling for the right words. It's more intimate conversations. You share your feelings. Kira's eyes brightened even more. Feelings? I've heard humans are full of those. I want to hear all your feelings. Zane's stomach twisted into a knot. This was not what he had in mind when he mentioned bonding. I don't think, but Kira was already looking at him expectantly, her tail curling in excitement. So tell me, what are you feeling right now? Zane's brain froze. Right now, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. Kira nodded seriously, like she was absorbing every word. Good. Overwhelmed. Is that a positive feeling for humans? Zane sighed. Not really, Rena chimed in, barely holding back her laughter. Sounds like Zane's feeling a whole lot more than just overwhelmed, if you ask me. Zane shot her another glare, but Kira was already inching closer, her face inches from his. What else do you feel, Zane? Humans have so many emotions, don't they? Zane felt like his entire brain had short-circuited. Yeah, we do, but maybe we can discuss them later. Kira tilted her head again. Later. But you said talking was the next step in bonding. Rena gave him a mock sympathetic look. She's got you there, Zane. You've got no choice but to spill your heart out. Zane rubbed his temples. I'm starting to regret this lesson. Lex, leaning against the ship with an amused smirk, shook his head. No backing out now, Zane. This is the bonding you asked for. Kira's eyes sparkled as she leaned in closer, her breath warm against his cheek. I'm ready to hear everything, Zane. Don't hold back, and as Zane tried to come up with a way to escape this increasingly awkward situation, he realized one thing for certain: there was no way out. He was in it for the long haul, and Kira wasn't going anywhere. Zane stared at Kira, his heart racing as she waited patiently for him to share his feelings. This was spiraling out of control faster than he'd anticipated. He glanced around at his friends, silently begging for a distraction, anything to pull him out of this increasingly awkward moment. But of course, Rena wasn't about to let him off that easy. Simon, Zane, she said with a teasing grin, Kira's ready to hear all about your deepest, most personal emotions. Don't keep her waiting, Zane groaned internally. I don't think now's the best time for a therapy session. Kira's tail flicked with curiosity. Therapy? Is that another human bonding step? Before Zane could even explain, Rena jumped in, her smirk widening. Oh, totally. Therapy is when humans sit down and talk about all their issues, real deep stuff. It's how we bond even more. Zane shot her a glare. That's not what I meant. Kira, looking fascinated, leaned even closer, so close that Zane could feel the warmth of her breath on his neck. I want to know your issues, Zane. Tell me everything. What do humans struggle with? Is it physical? Mental? Emotional? Zane blinked rapidly, his brain scrambling for an escape route. Well, we struggle with a lot of things. Like personal space. For one, Kira tilted her head, clearly confused. But we're already working on that, right? You're adjusting to my presence. Zane laughed nervously. Yeah, adjusting. Sure. Lex, who had been leaning casually against the ship, raised an eyebrow. Looks like Zane's got some serious emotional baggage to unpack. Her Zane shot him a look that said not helping, but Lex just shrugged, clearly enjoying the show. Kira, still focused entirely on Zane, began to circle him slowly, her tail brushing his legs lightly as she moved. Humans are so complex, so many steps to bonding. I had no idea it was this involved. Zane gulped. Yeah, well, we're complicated creatures. Suddenly, Kira stopped right in front of him, her face serious. Zane, I think we should move to the next step. Zane's heart skipped a beat. Next step? What? What next step? Kira's eyes narrowed in thought. Well, we've covered sitting close and talking, and we're working on touching. So, the next logical step is physical contact, right? Zane's brain short-circuited. Physical? What? Kira's tail swayed playfully as she continued. Humans have a lot of ways to touch, right? I've seen some of your movies. They involve close contact, hugging, sometimes even. She trailed off, her gaze dipping briefly to his chest before locking onto his eyes again. ... More. Zane could barely form a coherent thought. I don't think we're ready for that part yet. Kira blinked, her face unreadable. But you said humans bond through physical contact. Shouldn't we try it? For science? Rena burst out laughing, doubling over in hysterics. For science? Zane, you've officially become her experiment. Zane glared at her, flustered beyond belief. This is not a science experiment. Kira, looking confused again, reached out and lightly poked Zane's chest. But I thought we were bonding. You said that touching and talking were part of the process. If we don't continue, we won't reach full connection. Zane was trapped. Every attempt to dig his way out only seemed to bury him deeper. Kira, humans don't just jump to full connection. There's like stages. We need time to get to know each other. Kira considered this for a moment. Time. Like how much time? Another few minutes. Rena practically howled with laughter, and even Lex had to stifle a chuckle. No, Zane spluttered, his face now burning. Like days, maybe weeks. We have to be patient. Slow bonding. Remember? Kira gave him a puzzled look, then nodded slowly. Okay, Zane, I will be patient. She took a step back, though her tail still brushed his leg lightly. But I expect progress soon. Zane exhaled a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. Yes, progress. Will. Work on it. Rena wiped a tear from her eye, still laughing. Oh man, this is the best thing I've seen all week. Zane's got himself an alien girlfriend and doesn't even know what to do with her. I do not have a girlfriend, Zane protested, but his voice cracked, making it less convincing. Kira tilted her head. He needed an out fast. Okay, how about this, he said quickly. Let's take things one step at a time. We can bond more slowly. Kira tilted her head. Slowly? But you're already breathing faster. Maybe we should speed up. No, Zane blurted out, his voice a little too loud. I mean, no need to rush. Humans like to take it slow. Kira considered this for a moment, her tail flicking lazily as she thought. So humans are slow bonders. Interesting. Zane nodded quickly. Exactly. Slow bonding is. It's how we build trust. Trust, Kira repeated, as if tasting the word. I like that. So how long does this slow bonding take? Zane sighed in relief. Oh, it can take days, weeks, sometimes even months. Kira's eyes widened. Months? That seems inefficient. Zane smiled weakly. Yeah, well, humans are kind of known for being complicated. Kira finally shifted, unwrapping her tail from his waist and giving him some much-needed breathing room. All right, Zane, I'll try this slow bonding of yours, but I expect it to be thorough. Zane gulped again, but before he could respond, Rena stepped in, still laughing. Don't worry, Kira. Zane's all about being thorough. Kira smiled innocently. Good. I want to learn everything there is about human bonding. Zane shot Rena a look that screamed traitor, but she just winked at him. Lex clapped him on the shoulder. You've got your hands full, man. Good luck. As they all walked back toward the ship, Zane noticed Kira sticking close by his side, her curious gaze never leaving him. He had no idea how he was going to handle this slow bonding thing. But one thing was clear, his life was about to get a whole lot more complicated, and this was only the beginning. Zane thought things were finally calming down as they headed back toward the ship, but Kira had other ideas. She kept glancing at him every few steps, her eyes full of curiosity. So, Zane, she began, breaking the silence. What happens after bonding? Is there another phase? Something? Closer. Zane nearly tripped over his own feet. See closer? What do you mean closer? Kira's tail flicked as she thought. Well, if humans take so long to bond, I imagine there must be more stages. We don't stop bonding after just one step, right? Zane rubbed the back of his neck, desperately trying to keep it together. Yeah, but like I said, it's slow. Very slow. We have lots of steps. Kira's eyes lit up. Tell me all the steps. Rena snorted, clearly enjoying Zane's discomfort. Oh yeah, Zane, you should totally explain the whole process. You know, for science. Zane shot her a glare. You're not helping. Lex, walking a few paces ahead, grinned but didn't turn around. I think this lesson is going to take a while. Kira was practically bouncing with excitement now. I love learning. So what's the next step after sitting close? Is it? Touching, her eyes sparkled, and she leaned in, her fingers lightly brushing Zane's arm. Zane jumped as if she'd shocked him. Whoa! Easy there. Yes, touching is part of it, but it's not. Like that. Kira blinked, confused. Not like what? I'm only following your human customs, right? If bonding involves touching, we should practice. Zane was suddenly hyper-aware of how close she was again, her tail trailing lazily along his side. Yeah, but it's more about consent. Consent? Kira asked, intrigued. What's that? Rena couldn't contain her laughter anymore, nearly doubling over. Oh, Zane, you're in deep now. Kira blinked, easing up a little, but her position over him was not helping Zane's already flustered state. Her weight shifted, and suddenly Zane's face was practically buried in the dirt. Wow, Zane, you're really taking one for the team, Rena called out, still laughing hysterically. Kira, completely focused on the task, kept adjusting her position. Humans are so delicate. Is this better? Zane coughed, trying to keep it together. I guess, but you don't have to sit on me like that. Kira tilted her head. But it seems more efficient this way. I can reach everything easily, Rena smirked. Zane, I think she's got you exactly where she wants you. Lex chuckled. Looks like it. What's the next step in bonding? Zane. You might want to brace yourself. Zane couldn't even respond at this point. Kira was leaning in so close that her breath tickled his ear. Humans are fascinating, she whispered. So many ways to connect. Zane's mind was racing. Yeah, well, maybe we should. Slow down a little, but Kira seemed to have her own ideas. What comes after massage? Do humans bond even more? Zane's face turned bright red. That's not. We don't have to do everything today. Kira's tail flicked playfully as she shifted again, causing Zane to yelp. You're right, Zane. Bonding takes time. But I'm very committed to learning everything. Rena was gasping for air now, her laughter uncontrollable. "Oh, Zane, you've got yourself an alien girlfriend who's more hands-on than you ever bargained for." Lex gave Zane a sympathetic nod. "Looks like this bonding session's turning into a full-on workout." Kira, still perched comfortably on top of Zane, smiled brightly. "Don't worry, Zane. I'm a fast learner. Soon I'll know all your human customs." She paused, her eyes lighting up with another idea. "Maybe I can try that other thing I saw in the movie next time." Zane's heart skipped a beat. "Other thing? What other thing?" Kira leaned in even closer, her lips almost brushing his ear. "It's called kissing." Zane's entire body tensed. "I think we should take a break." Kira looked confused. "But you said we should keep progressing." Zane glanced over at Rena, who was practically crying from laughing so hard. "Yeah, but there's such a thing as too much progress in one day." Lex finally chimed in, his voice still laced with amusement. "I think you've had enough bonding for one afternoon, Zane. Better let him catch his breath." Kira reluctantly got off Zane, standing over him with an innocent expression. "Okay, Zane. But next time we'll continue right where we left off." Zane sat up, his face flushed, and muttered under his breath, "Great. Can't wait." As Kira walked away, her tail swaying behind her, Rena clapped Zane on the back. "You're one lucky guy, Zane." "You've got an eager alien who's ready to bond whenever you are," Zane groaned, rubbing his face. "Yeah." Lucky Lex grinned. "Hey, look on the bright side. At least you're not going through this alone." Zane sighed, getting to his feet as he dusted himself off. "I'm starting to think alone doesn't sound so bad right now." Rena leaned in, her voice full of mischief. "Come on, Zane. Admit it, you're enjoying this a little bit." Zane shot her a tired look. "I don't even know what's happening anymore." Kira glanced back over her shoulder with a smile. "See you soon, Zane. We still have so much bonding to do." Zane gulped. "Yeah, looking forward to it." As Kira walked off, Rena and Lex exchanged knowing looks, their grins widening. Zane, on the other hand, could only stand there, wondering just how much bonding one human could handle. And somehow, he had the feeling this was just the beginning. Girlfriend. Is that a human term for bonding partner? Lex finally chimed in, his voice dripping with amusement. "Yep. It's a term we use for someone you're close to." Real close. Kira's eyes lit up again. "I like that word. Girlfriend." "Zane, am I your girlfriend now?" Zane nearly choked. "No, I mean, not yet. We're still learning." Kira nodded thoughtfully. "I see. So I'm not your girlfriend yet." She gave him a playful look. "But I'm getting closer, right?" Zane buried his face in his hands. I don't even know anymore." Rena gave him a sympathetic pat on the back, though her smirk never wavered. "Don't worry, Zane. You've got this. You're just taking it slow. Really, really slow." Lex chuckled. "Hey, at least she's eager to learn." Zane groaned, fully aware that he was never going to live this down. Kira, however, seemed perfectly content. She had learned something new about human bonding and was eager for more. "Zane," she said sweetly, her eyes locking onto his once again, "you're my favorite human to bond with." Zane opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. He had no idea how to handle this situation, and he doubted there was any human manual that could help him navigate bonding with an over-enthusiastic alien, and somehow he knew things were only going to get more complicated from here. Zane thought things couldn't get any worse, but then Kira's eyes gleamed with a new idea. "Zane, since we're bonding so well, why don't we try something I saw in one of your human movies?" Zane felt his heart rate spike. What kind of movie are we talking about here?" Kira smiled innocently. "It's called massage." Zane blinked. "Massage, you saw that in a movie?" Kira nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, humans do it to relax and feel better, right?" "It's all about touching." Zane's mouth went dry. "Well, yeah, but it's not exactly what you think." Rena couldn't hold back anymore, leaning against the ship as she cackled. "Oh man, Zane, this just keeps getting better." "You should let her try it out on you." Lex chimed in from behind, his voice casual but dripping with amusement. "I hear massages can be very intimate. You know, if done right." Zane threw his hands up. "I don't think this is a good idea." Kira, completely ignoring his reluctance, was already stepping closer, flexing her fingers. "I'm ready. You just lie down, and I'll take care of everything." Zane backed up, panic flashing across his face. Wait, hold on. You're supposed to ask first, you know, consent." Kira's ears perked up. "Oh right, Zane, Do I have your consent to touch you? For science, Rena was now practically doubled over with laughter, while Lex watched with a huge grin, clearly entertained by Zane's predicament. Zane sighed. There was no escape. Fine, but just be gentle. All right, Kira grinned triumphantly. Of course, I've watched the technique very closely. Before Zane could say anything else, Kira practically pounced on him, pushing him down to the ground and positioning herself on his back, straddling him. Her tail swished behind her as she leaned in, placing her hands on his shoulders. Is this how humans do it? She asked, starting to knead his muscles, though her gentle touch was anything but. Zane winced as she pressed down hard. Not exactly. You're supposed to use less force.